state laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Hey, and aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, June 20th, 2019. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. It's a very busy news day. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. So let's just get right on into it. Starting off with, it's sort of good news, but maybe not. Apparently yesterday, House Democrats passed this $1 trillion with a T dollar appropriations bill, complete with funding for the military, health programs, energy department. But they included in there a rider to repeal the 2001 authorization for the use of military force. Now, this is probably going to go to the Senate, and we'll see if the Senate goes along with reasserting Congress's responsibility for deciding when and where this country goes to war. The problem is it will have to get past Donald Trump's desk. And looking at the votes on this bill, I don't think they have a veto-proof majority, but at least we're starting to see a pushback within Congress to reclaim their constitutional authority over war. Because ever since 2001, this authorization for the use of military force, which specified Iraq only, has been used to allow the president to make war on 7-8 different countries so far that we know of. And that's not what the president is supposed to be able to do. So Congress is trying to make the effort. We'll see what happens. Trump is likely to veto it. Now, obviously, the big news here is that early today, Iran shot down a Global Hawk surveillance drone. And, of course, that was seized on by the Trump administration to say, oh, see how provocative they're being. We were in international airspace, and we were just minding our own business spying in Iran because, you know, that's our right to do as the exceptional nation on the earth here. And so they've had meetings at the White House, and they're going on back and forth about this whole thing. But this is apparently the incident that is going to be seized on to escalate the war against Iran. And, you know, basically Iran has released a statement today saying they will not extend the deadline on saving the nuclear deal. The deadline is still July 8th. Either they're going to step on in and help Iran deal with U.S. sanctions, or the whole thing is off. And now, of course, we're hearing about how the U.S. is planning a major strike in retaliation for, well, it was the oil tankers, now it's the Global Hawk, and it's going to be a massive air assault on a specific single Iranian target related to their nuclear industry. Now, exactly what happened here? Okay, well, apparently the Global Hawk had flown from one of the American bases in the southern parts of the Persian Gulf region with its identification transponders turned off, which is in breach of all international aviation rules. And apparently the drone had continued on the route from the Strait of Hormuz towards Iran's port city of Chabahar. Then it returned west towards the Strait of Hormuz. Now, looking at a map very carefully, there is one point where the Global Hawk could very easily have crossed into Iranian airspace near the Khoi Mubarak region. And that's where it was shot down. And Iran is insisting the remains of the drone fell into Iran's territorial waters. There's apparently a race now to see whether U.S. or Iranian ships can get to the drone pieces to put them on display. The U.S. position, of course, is that the drone was in international airspace and, by golly, those gosh darn Iranians, just because we were spying on them and just because we've been talking about bombing them is no reason for them to take out that Global Hawk. I mean, that's an expensive piece of kit. It's about the same size and cost as a Boeing 737. So would the U.S. deliberately sacrifice a Global Hawk to get the war going? Of course they would. Every day I look out this window at what Roosevelt was willing to sacrifice to get the United States into World War II. So all the war hawks are on full display, if you will, preening their feathers. Lindsey Graham is calling Ayatollah Khamenei a murderous thug and calling for strikes on Iran. And according to Lindsey Graham, the best way to stop Iran from building its own nuclear bomb is to threaten to destroy the nation's oil refineries and sink the Iranian Navy if attacks on tankers in the Persian Gulf continue. Small little problem with that. First of all, naval experts are saying the evidence that Iran had anything to do with the attacks on the tankers is weak, it's inconclusive, and the accusations are coming from a government with a known history of false flags and lies to get wars going. Second of all, Iran never was building nuclear weapons. Even before all this thing about the P5+1 and the rest of it, the IAEA, which was in there in Iran, in full compliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, confirmed time and time again that Iran's nuclear activities were consistent with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They were making reactor fuel for their power station. They were making medical isotopes. They were making industrial applications for nuclear materials. And there was no evidence they were trying to build a bomb. But we're already back to that. It's the same lie regurgitated over and over again. Just like over in Syria, Assad is gassing his people. Well, that's exposed as a lie. Wait 6 months. Assad is gassing his people. That didn't work out. Wait 6 months. Assad is gassing his own people. Same thing again. It's the big lie tactic. Say it often enough and loud enough, and eventually everybody just gets tired of trying to defend the truth, and they go, oh, all right, yeah. Iran has overdue library books, and Iran has waxy yellow buildup in the corners of their kitchen floor, and Iran passes wind on their elevators. So Graham is out there just saying, war, and all I can say to that is, Lindsey, here's your rifle, here's your parachute, here's your Day-Glo orange parachute. We're going to call Khamenei and tell him you are on your way to kick his butt all by yourself. But we, the American people, we've had enough of these wars. We're seeing our nation being bankrupted by the war economy. We're tired of seeing our kids coming home in wheelchairs or cheap metal boxes with American flags made in China draped over them. Enough is enough is enough. This is not going well. We're going to get bogged down in Iran the same way that we got bogged down in Syria and Afghanistan. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, again, the White House is considering airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. according to Pentagon insiders. So, yeah, sure, let's blow up some nuclear facility and shower the Iranian people with radioisotopes and give them massive birth defects and cancer and leukemia, because after 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and Fukushima, I'm sure the world has got plenty more room for nuclear fallout all over the place here. So they're out there talking about an Iranian facility linked to its nuclear program. They're talking about a massive airstrike. From that, I'm going to take a guess what they're talking about. Iran has a nuclear enrichment facility tunneled underneath a mountain so that it can't be bombed. And it isn't secret. When Iran completed it, they announced it. They took the IAE in there for a tour and said, see, we're only enriching to 3%. It's all above board. But that's been a major talking point for the U.S. government. Oh, they have centrifuges under a mountain where we can't get at them. Obviously, it's for nefarious purposes. Well, the U.S. can get at that centrifuge factory inside the mountain if it invokes the nuclear option. And I am very concerned that that is what is being discussed right now in Washington, D.C. Now, wait a minute. Maybe somebody just blinked, because I'm going to have to come back to this, but on the Fox trailer, they had somebody that say that the missile that downed the drone may have been launched by mistake. And that means that somebody backed off somewhere. Maybe in that White House meeting, the military got to Trump and said, look, we don't have the resources for a war with Iran. This is a bad idea. That was the same message, apparently, that Pompeo got from CENTCOM earlier in the week. So I'm going to have to, on the next break, see if I can follow up on that. Now, presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders says a war with Iran is going to be based on a lie, just like the U.S. invasion of Vietnam and Iraq in the past, and basically said that Iraq and Vietnam were the two worst foreign policy disasters based on lies that came from the White House. And he's absolutely right about that. Those are not the only two wars started with lies from the White House. And according to the Jerusalem Post, they're claiming that diplomatic sources in the UN are saying that there is still this U.S. plan to conduct a massive airstrike on an Iranian facility linked to its nuclear program in response to the alleged attacks on 2 sea vessels in the Gulf of Oman. So I don't know, maybe they're going to back off the drone situation, but they still have the ships. It's like they've got a smorgasbord of excuses. We're going to bomb Iran. What should we do? Well, we'll take this oil tanker here, and we'll have a side order of that cargo ship over there, and maybe we'll leave off the drone because we're trying to lose weight over here or something like that. But everybody is still talking war talk, and I'm going to need to go on back and do a little work. I only just caught that fleeting, but we'll see what happened, so that maybe somebody's going to back off. But of course, for people like Lindsey Graham and John Bolton, they're going to say, we don't care if it was a mistake. We don't care if some underling gave the order to launch. It was still a launch against our sovereign property, and we don't even care if it was over Iranian airspace. We have to strike back to teach them what for. Now, something very scary surfaced recently. Apparently, there was this Pentagon document was declassified, made public for about a week, then classified again, but not before it was downloaded by Stephen Aftergood, an activist at the Federation of American Scientists. And basically what it says inside is that the Pentagon thinks that the United States could win a total nuclear war. Now, I'm sorry, but if all the warheads currently in service to Russia, China, and the United States, and Pakistan, and India, and not to mention Israel, if they were all to be set off, nobody would win. It would be a real life on the beach. These people are insane. They're really insane. Nobody is going to win a global thermonuclear war here. Well, along with the 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East, the United States is going to include a Patriot missile battalion, manned and unmanned surveillance aircraft, and, quote, other deterrence capabilities, end quote. And what's really interesting is looking at this article, which is in Press TV, it quotes the Department of Defense as saying that the United States does not seek conflict with Iran. Right, and Saddam had nuclear weapons. Of course, the U.S. is seeking a conflict with Iran. They've made that very obvious over the last decade, that they're trying to find some way they can get a war with Iran going. Their only obstacle is convincing you, the American people, that this is right, moral, and just to blow up another country that has not actually attacked us. Anyway, there are a wide range of voices that are opposing this idiocy and what is being described as forever war with Iran. Now, California Representative Ro Khanna and several other congresspeople, including presidential hopeful Seth Moulton, have sponsored a resolution to stop the Trump administration from proceeding on a path to war with Iran, saying it would be unconstitutional and illegal. It would be a strategic blunder. And Congressman Khanna said, I will continue to work with my colleagues when the defense bill comes to the floor next month to prevent funds from being used for a war with Iran. So opposition is building even within the government. Now, interestingly enough, a while back, there was this Department of Justice program designed to fight Russian disinformation, Twitter trolls, and online fake news. And to nobody's surprise, it has turned out to be exactly the thing it was supposed to be against. And these State Department funded trolls are attacking journalists, corporate journalists, independent journalists, doubting the reason to go to war with Iran. And so they're out there. These U.S. taxpayer-funded trolls are out there in U.S. social media just attacking anybody who says, wait a minute, maybe we need to rethink this going to war with Iran. And they're out there saying, oh, you're a chicken, you're a coward, Iran is a horrible, horrible country, and we've got to do something about it. My answer to them is always the same thing. If you think war with Iran is so good, why are you here in the United States talking about it? Why have you not signed up for the military and asked to be sent to Iran? Generally, that tends to shut them up. In fact, when I was still going around to local speaking engagements talking about the wars, I would actually have blank enlistment forms in my briefcase. So everybody who would stand up and say, I think we need to go to war in Iraq, and I'd say, okay, here you go. Fill this out. And by the way, on my way home, I go right by the enlistment center. I would be so happy to drop this off for you. And usually they would be gone by intermission. And to give you an example of what this troll army is doing, Washington Post columnist Jason Rezaian, who was held in Iranian prison for about 18 months. Now, doesn't sound to me like he's an apologist or a collaborator, but these are the slurs being hauled to him by these taxpayer-funded trolls, because apparently he is not sufficiently enthusiastic about regime-changing Iran. He's been very critical of the ramped-up economic sanctions and the threat of military intervention. So this Global Engagement Center, the U.S. State Department taxpayer-funded center, which is supposed to fight online disinformation, that's exactly what they're doing. They're out there at the forefront of promoting disinformation, promoting attacks on people. Anybody who does not stand up and scream support for the next war is going to be announced. And it's almost amazing how wise and prophetic Mark Twain was in his war prayer about how those who spoke against the war were shouted down until eventually they had to just basically slink away because they were afraid for their safety here. Okay, Iran has opened a new air terminal at Tehran's main international airport. It was designed and built by local contractors after the European companies pulled out in 2017. So the Salam terminal is the second of three at Tehran's Imam Khomeini International Airport, inaugurated by President Hassan Rouhani Tuesday to handle 5 million passengers a year. So Salam will increase the airport's overall annual capacity by 80% to 12 million passengers. So Iran is expecting a lot of air traffic. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha America, welcome back. And yeah, it's now starting to pop up on ABC, and Apparently, over on The Guardian, Trump is saying that the shootdown was most likely a mistake. Fox News is saying that, yeah, it may have just been somebody who was loose and stupid. And Iran is saying they have parts of the downed U.S. drone. So it looks like Trump may back off on this. And I'm sure he's probably going to get a lot of arm twisting. And Bolton's already on his way to Israel to talk with Netanyahu about what they're going to do. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, Trump says Iranian shootdown of U.S. military drone may have been a mistake. Not it was a big mistake, but they're now saying it may not have been ordered by the chain of command. So this is just getting so weird. Oh my goodness. And let's see. I just want to take a quick look at the story where Iran says they have parts of the drone. And it's apparently, anyway, this is going to sort itself out, but it looks to me like somebody somewhere is blinking. That may be a good thing. Okay. Over in Saudi Arabia, apparently the Houthis were able to hit a Saudi power plant with a cruise missile. And they carried out this strike on Saudi Arabia, and they hit a major power plant in the area of Al-Shuqaiq in the kingdom's southern province of Jizan. Brigadier General Yahya Sari, a spokesman for the part of the Yemeni armed forces loyal to the Ansar Allah government, said, the strike was a response to the continued crimes of the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. Excuse me. Got something caught my throat. So this Brigadier General is promising great surprises for the Saudi regime if it continues its invasion of Yemen. This is the second cruise missile strike on southern Saudi Arabia in a week. Here a strike, there a strike, everywhere a strike. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we are in a world war. We really are. All right, let's grab a phone call from Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I just want to make a quick comment, just change the subject a little bit. That woman who calls from Canada, I think her name is Layla.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, she is very, very highly intelligent, man.
Yes.
I mean, you should let her talk a little bit longer. I know you're pressed for time.
Yes.
And there are people waiting on the line, but she's so intelligent. I mean, you should give her more time, Mike.
Well, you know, we actually interviewed her for an entire hour a while back here, and the only fault that I have with Layla is that, you know, usually there's a topic that's under discussion with all the callers, and she'll kind of like drift off. And I'm trying to keep the show on focus, and that's the only reason that sometimes I'll very politely and gently try and cut her off.
Yeah, I understand that. You know what you remind me of? A female Christopher Hitchens. All right, Michael, thank you. Bye.
I think that's a very valid comment here, and I'm sure that Layla, if she's listening, will view that as a compliment. Okay, getting on back to Yemen. Apparently, new Sudanese forces have arrived in the southern port city of Aden to support the Yemeni government forces in the ongoing fight against the Houthi rebels. Now, remember, when they say Yemeni government, they're talking about the imposed, U.S.-approved junta, imposed from outside with the military support of the Saudis. When they talk about the Houthi rebels, they're talking about the Yemenite people who just want their country back under Yemenite control. So They've dragged Sudan into this mess. Over in Iraq, a Katyusha rocket landed at an oil hub in Iraq's Basra, injuring 3. Now, because it's a Katyusha rocket, they don't know who launched it. But apparently, the projectile came down 100 meters away from the section of the site used as a residence and operation center. It wounded 3 Iraqis. Apparently, Exxon is now going to evacuate some 20 foreign staff in the aftermath of the attack. Alrighty, we got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I'm getting emails on this apparent pullback from the drone shoot down. One of them is saying, I was encouraged to hear Trump say that this was most likely a mistake. However, we must keep in mind that this is Trump talking. Wait 24 hours and it will be a different story. What I suspect may have happened is that when Trump had his big meeting at the White House this morning, he got the same message from our military that Pompeo did down at CENTCOM, that a war with Iran would be a major, major mistake. It would be another quagmire. It would be a bog down. And I think Trump just decided we need to sort of draw back from this. So we'll see what happens. If they're going to do a bombing in retaliation for the attack on the Japanese tankers, which should be Japan, not the United States, I might point out, it is likely to happen somewhere between this weekend and the 4th of July. All righty, we're going to take a phone call from Peter in California. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, give me a second to talk a little bit about the military quagmire that we're facing right now in the situation. It's first off, you were talking about Sudan sending volunteers. And I know everybody out there knows Sudan is in the middle of a major revolution.
Yes.
Right now. And I'm not sure where we stand on that. I'm sure we stand on the side of repression. But Sudan is now fulfilling the same role that Libya did when we went into Syria. We fomented, of course, we took down the Libyan regime, took all those weapons, and shipped all those jihadis into Syria. Well, now, of course, since Sudan has absolutely no money, no training, their soldiers can't be worth much at all. But they are live bodies.
Yes.
And I'm sure we're doing the shipping and the equipping and sending them over to fight the Yemenis, who, by the way, again, if we're going to have a major war where they're going to shut down the Straits of Hormuz, we've got to, the United States and the West has to ensure that Yemen is open in Aden, the port of Aden, as a alternative to going through the strait, where they don't have to risk the tankers and the naval vessels going up the length of the Persian Gulf. But if they can take Aden and defeat the Houthis, they can open that up and ensure the flow of oil while they mutilate Iran. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, I think I've stated before that in my analysis, it would take about 5 divisions to take the Iranian side of the 5 American divisions, the Iranian side of the Straits of Hormuz, and then to hold them would be a problem. But
yes.
5 to take it and spread out to keep all the shore-to-ship missiles from attacking and so on. But also what we would need to do is go up the corner of the very top of the Persian Gulf where the Shah al-Arab waterway is.
Yes.
And where a big part of the Iran-Iraq war was fought back in the day, in the 80s, where you can deploy large numbers of troops. The terrain will allow it. And you just turn the corner, and Iran is only 30 or 40 miles away from Kuwait City, right? And so we would have to, and by the way, Iraq is saying they don't want America operating against Iran from anywhere on Iraq.
Yes,
right?
that's what they're saying.
So we would have to have several, 1 corps, maybe 2, which, by the way, now we're talking about now 5 divisions at the Straits of Hormuz and another 5 divisions or so in the north to deter the Iranians from turning the corner in the south there and taking the southern Iraqi oil fields and all of Kuwait and moving into Saudi Arabia. And by the way, Jordan is against U.S. moving in on this. And
yes.
if Israel, I think I spoke about what their effectiveness is on the ground. You know, they're not much. They would have to go without permission of Jordan all the way through the length of Jordan, through Iraq, to help us out from the Iranians turning the corner and taking the whole Arabian Peninsula.
Well, I'll tell you what my worst case scenario is, and I mean, this would be coming from people like Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, is that the U.S. goes ahead and they use a nuclear weapon to destroy Iran's centrifuges that are built under that mountain. And it isn't about getting rid of the centrifuges, it is to send the world a message that the United States is willing to use nuclear weapons in order to get everybody else to back off and say, okay, yes, we will bow down before the mighty United States of America because, you know, they've got that nuclear arsenal and they're now willing, they're showing their willingness to use it. That's my worst case scenario right now.
Mike, I don't even think that's his worst case, but I think it's the best case. I think it's the most likely, not the best, the most likely case, because we're so circumscribed by what else we can do. And by the way, we can't use those carriers to fly air support, right, within the Gulf, so they'd have to disembark their whole air wing into Saudi Arabia to fly air support against northern, the north part of the Persian Gulf, But what you're saying is
well. Let me back up.
The most likely case.
Peter, let me back up. Why can the U.S. carriers not conduct air operations while they're inside the Gulf?
Because there's not enough room to maneuver, and they're just too valuable with 5,000 people and a $20 billion embarked air wing. They're sitting duck, Mike.
I agree. I agree, but I wasn't sure what you were referring to. They're going to be very vulnerable there inside the Gulf. They may have to disembark their air wing and fly over from Saudi Arabia.
And flying from the ground bases. What you're saying, Mike, is right. That nuclear option, I think you're right, man. It's scary as hell.
Yes.
But that's what we'll do. If Bolton has his way, I can tell you.
I mean, at this point, if I am right, and I don't have a crystal ball, by the way, if I am right, and Pompeo got from CENTCOM and Trump got from the Pentagon officials at the White House that the U.S. cannot engage in a conventional war against Iran and have it come to a happy resolution in a timely manner, then they may just simply go for massive airstrikes and the use of a nuclear weapon to sort of cow down all the other nations in the region and say, yes, we're willing to use our nuclear arsenal. That would change the geopolitical dynamic by quite a wide margin. Because if you think about it, Trump is looking at going into his re-election campaign, and sometimes I wonder if he's really that enthusiastic about it. But if he starts a war with Iran, and it's not resolved by this time next year, it is going to work against him in next year's election.
Well, I think without a doubt, Mike, but it's nevertheless, he doesn't seem concerned with that at all. Like I agree, he may not want re-election, but his money is coming from all the people who want the wars, and Congress's money is coming from all the people who want the wars.
Yeah.
Even taking out the Bernie Sanders and some of the people who have come out against it, the Israeli lobby, the Saudi lobby. Believe me, there's a lot of hands out in Congress for a long time.
Yeah, they certainly are. Well, I have an idea. Call me silly. All these billionaires who want the wars, let them pay for the wars. Let them send their kids to fight them. And leave us alone, because these billionaires are not elected officials to represent the people of the United States of America. They're just exploiting the greed of politicians to buy the wars that they want. And that's the reason originally this country had strict limits on campaign donations, so that the ultra-rich couldn't just buy the government out from under we the people.
Like you've talked about it before, but I think it's right. And I can't for the life of me, I know it sounds very socialistic, but I can't for the life of me, I can't understand why anybody can't get along with more than with $100 million. Who needs more than $100 million? The richest person can assuage all their lusts for that. But can you have a guy like Bezos with $138 billion, or Adelson, who only cares about Israel, or Arnon Milchan, or Saeb Hamsaban, or all these people that are that are throwing money into getting all these wars going on. It's just George Soros, all these people. If I think we should limit how much people can have, because you can make trouble with 100 million.
I agree.
You can't cause more.
I mean, I don't understand why your average corporate CEO or politician. I mean, a few $1 million, you're going to have a nice, comfortable home. You're going to have money for your necessities and your caprices. Why do you need to have all those billions and billions outside of ego and vanity? And I think part of the problem is when people get that kind of money, there's a little voice in them saying, well, you have to do something to prove you deserve to have that kind of money. And that's where you get Bill Gates, who's off with his vaccines, and you have George Soros off with his one world government. And they just sort of dream up this thing. I have a vision, and I have the money to complete it. And this justifies my having the money, and it justifies all the things I did to get the money.
Yeah, they get what they want with the bribes to Congress and governments around the world. It's simply just an operating cost, But like now, there was a drone. There was a video you had on weeks back where there was some drone company talking about, and they released in the video a swarm of 25,000 palm of the hand size AI drones, artificial intelligence drones.
Yes.
And from a C-130, they just dropped, and they said a strike like this would cost, they said at the time, $25 million. Well, at a $138 billion estate, Jeff Bezos he could afford strike after strike after strike after strike, wiping out city after city. And what I'm saying is, also with all these guys with all their money, the threat of the use of force, the violence that now is more or less a monopoly of the state, will be going directly to these billionaires. Why have an intermediary? Why have the operating costs of paying off Congress for $25 million or the president when you can just get a swarm and just do it on your own?
Well, I agree that not only is that a risk, it may have already happened. I mean, we know the world of corporate espionage is actually larger than government espionage. And I think we can assume that they have already engaged in things like assassinations and sabotage against their business rivals. It just doesn't get reported because corporate media, while they obsess about blue-collar and working-class crime, they hardly ever report on white-collar crime unless it's so obvious it can't be ignored, like the Lincoln Savings debacle. And I think that only got a lot of attention because it roped John Glenn into it.
Well, we know that the CIA and the intelligence community outsources to contractors more than half of what they do.
Yes.
Now, these are companies that are owned by these billionaires, so they've got their own intelligence apparatus. By the way, because the degrees of separation and deniability, these are the ones that are probably carrying out the assassinations, and that's now a private enterprise. These billionaires own it.
Well, I'm sure that Blackwater, Z Academy, whatever they're calling themselves this week, I'm sure they've carried out assassinations. In fact, they were caught doing so in Iraq.
That Israeli company, that Weinstein,
Black Cube?
Gates. Black Cube. There's a bunch of them. Believe me, they're involved in that kind of stuff. It's just, we're entering a really, really dangerous, the rise of the old warlords, like in the 30 Years' Wars.
Yes.
These billionaires can be like those warlords.
That's exactly what they're like.
Hey, on that happy note, Mike, I'm picking up my daughter here. I got to roll.
All right. Well, happy picking up daughter, and I'm going to switch over to Terry in California. Aloha, Terry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, did you say that the Iranians had the down drone in their possession?
They have pieces of them, and they're claiming to have recovered them within Iranian territorial waters.
Oh, so they went in a boat and went out there and got them off floating in the water.
Yes.
So they couldn't have been that far out, I wouldn't think, if they can go out and get in a boat and bring it back real quick. I mean, I don't know how long it took them, but And I'm thinking that maybe this hesitation by Trump might be, hey, yeah, there was in their airspace, and we better back off a little bit because, we could be exposed with this.
Well, like I said at the beginning of this story here, if you look carefully on a map of where they describe the Global Hawk flying, there was one point on its return leg where it actually just brushed up right against the edge of Iranian airspace. And it could have very easily drifted into Iranian airspace, at which point it would have been considered a legitimate target. Now, the U.S. is not going to admit they invaded Iranian airspace because that makes the United States the provocateur. But you're right. Iran may now have the evidence to say the Global Hawk was over their airspace, and so the U.S. wants to pull back.
Right. Those things are very expensive, too, those Global Hawks. You know how much they cost? I know they're
about $122 million.
Right, exactly. And, okay, Mike, that's all I had. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Yeah, most people think of drones, they think of these little tiny things going around, but the Global Hawk, it's about the size and cost of a 737. And anyway, getting on over to Afghanistan, over in UrduReport.com, we're getting a confirmation that the United States has agreed to completely withdraw its troops from Afghanistan, along with a promise not to interfere in Afghanistan in the future, which sounds to me like, well, we kind of lost that one. Now, I'm sure somewhere in there is an agreement to keep that pipeline going at the previous low rates and continued access to all of that opium for America's pharmaceutical companies and drug lords. We have to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org. And also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extend your life with Extendovite. When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendivite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendivite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendivite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendivite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. I'm looking at the Fox News feed, and Iran is now demanding that the international community demand that the United States end its unlawful acts. They're going to have about as much success with that as getting Israel to end its unlawful acts. You're dealing with a government that believes itself exceptional, indispensable, and above the law because they serve a higher, more noble purpose. Okay, so we were talking about how the U.S. has agreed to completely withdraw from Afghanistan, and as I said in my postscript, I'm sure that a deal is in place to keep access to that oil and gas pipeline, which was the original reason for the invasion, keep access to that at the discounted price, and I'm sure that somebody has already made an arrangement to keep the flow of opium from Afghanistan coming to America, because the oil must flow, the opium must flow, the spice must flow, for those of you who are Frank Herbert fans. Okay, let's see. We're going to go to the phones again. David in Iceland, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thank you. I tried to send you an email today. I think it must have not gone through. I was just thinking, you know, in World War I and World War II, the media played a big part.
Oh, yes.
And they were absolutely, you know, when the photographic images came, you know, in color in World War II and you know, the newspapers were selling like nothing else. I was just hoping that we don't have to go into war, that people start to think about supporting your show and your station. So
yes.
I hope you will. And you're not allowed to get Bitcoin over in Hawaii, is it?
Yeah, there is there's a law against it now. After we move to Indiana, I may set up another cryptocurrency wallet, but for a while we're still here, and we're only talking about, you know, the end of August is when we're moving, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, let's hope it's not a war between, you know, August and or September.
You know, but until then, we still accept check, money order, cash, chickens, old cookies, you know, anything you care to send along. You know.
Yeah, I just wanna tell you. I just want to tell your listeners to please support your show, because people probably over the world is listening to your show and don't want to get you off the air.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for that, David, and I appreciate the plug here. And once again, for those of you who want to support what we are doing here, the postal address is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number to make a debit or credit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 1. We've got to take a break here for station identification. We'll be back with hour number 2 after these few words.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Turning over to Egypt, as you are already aware, former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi collapsed and died while he was at court, supposedly for his trial. And at this point, it's pretty much given that he was assassinated somehow. For one thing, he was allowed to just lie there for 20 minutes before any kind of medical attention was given to him. And people are now saying exactly what was going on. Well, part of the problem may have been that Morsi was the man who knew too much, and in a public trial was probably going to be able to name names and put out some very embarrassing information. The other part of it is apparently the Egyptian government, the current Egyptian government, was afraid there could be another uprising centered on Mohamed Morsi, because he's the only democratically elected leader of Egypt in recent times. And apparently Egypt's government is going back to the rule of the pharaohs, and they like it that way. All right. Now, the United Nations has basically come out with a 101-page report calling on UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to initiate a follow-up criminal investigation after finding sufficient credible evidence that the grisly October 2nd murder of Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul was on the direct orders of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and other high-level officials. Apparently, there's some kind of an audio tape that surfaced. It kind of makes the case. Well, I guess that may have been one step too far, because U.S. senators have now voted to block arms sales to Saudi Arabia. And this, of course, is in opposition to Donald Trump, who had approved the deals in an emergency declaration without congressional oversight. And as corrupt as Congress can be, I'm rather encouraged to see they are trying to take back their congressional authority on certain things and sort of rebalance between the three divisions of our government. Pardon me. So apparently there were 3 separate votes. Senators approved 22 resolutions earlier today in an attempt to stop the transfer of more than $8 billion in weapons to the 2 Gulf countries amid the ongoing war and humanitarian crisis in Yemen. So, interesting. It feels like the the wheels are starting to come off the war wagon. I mean, it's still wobbling down the road there, but it starts to feel like the steam is running out. Okay, let's talk with Fred in Wisconsin. Aloha, Fred. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I've been listening to your conversation with the hacking, and I just wanted to bring up something. I saw my doctor on the 30th of April. I was checked out. I was in great shape. A week later, I'm in Wisconsin. All of a sudden, I'm having problems. And Dan Whittington had a show the other day where he brought this doctor out from Germany on, and they're talking about the aluminum that's being, sprayed on us.
Yeah.
And combining it with glyphosate. And it's creating a condition where you're hacking and, you can use cough medicines, you can use all kinds of stuff. I'm finally starting to get past this thing after 8 weeks.
In my case, my hacking goes back to two things. One, it goes back to when I had pneumonia about 4 years ago. Second of all, for a while I was smoking. I just quit. I'm on the patches. And so I'm now sort of coughing up all the stuff that was there. But I figure 2 months from now, I won't be doing it anymore. So,
wait till you get to Indiana.
Well,
there's plenty of glyphosate and aluminum being dusted around out here.
Well, I don't know about that. We do know that the U.S. military is testing all kinds of stuff over these islands. And the reason I know that is because, we get rain on a regular basis, and sometimes the rain will just completely clean off the car, and it'll be beautiful. And other times we'll come out after a night of rain, and there are just all these streaks of stuff. And it's usually after we hear these military airplanes flying over at low altitude at night.
Well, I can't wait to hear when you're in the Midwest. And I wish you well. I hope you have a great trip.
All right, thanks an awful lot. I appreciate it, and we're going to let you go. Getting on back to the news here, and let's see. I do like my iWatch. I am enjoying it. Okay. A few days ago, the Dutch-led joint investigation team accused 3 Russian nationals and a Ukrainian of playing a significant role in the downing of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 over Ukraine back in 2014. And all 298 people on board died back then. And they came to the conclusion that it was a Buk surface-to-air missile from Russia. And the Russian Foreign Ministry is out there saying this is baseless. It's coming out now because it's more Russia bashing. There's no reliable evidence. And there wasn't even a coherent line of argument. But more importantly is the Joint Investigations team refused to accept evidence provided by Russia and instead relied on evidence only provided by the West. Now, over in Malaysia, their prime minister, is also expressing serious discontent. And their prime minister is saying this inquiry was designed from the beginning to blame Russia for what happened. And so Malaysia is saying we are very unhappy. From the beginning, it became a political issue of how to accuse Russia of the wrongdoing. Even before they examined the case, they had already claimed the shooting down of Malaysian Airlines 17 was done by Russia. So they're not buying it either. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Up in Canada, the Ontario Civil Liberties Association and the British Columbia Civil Liberties Association, even though they're distinct and separate organizations, they are coming together to oppose this campaign to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Association definition of anti-Semitism. Now, to back up on this, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, they are basically an academic group. Okay, they're out there saying we must remember this, we must remember that, so forth and so on. And they put out their own definition of anti-Semitism, which included all criticisms of the government of Israel. And of course, Israel supporters were quick to sort of treat this IHRA as some kind of an official body and adopt this definition and try and get it coded into law in many places around the world. And so far they have succeeded in several states here in the United States, saying that if you criticize the government of Israel, you're just expressing your Jew hate, which I guess means that if you're criticizing the Nazis, it's only because you hate the German people. And that's how silly it is. This is an attack on our basic right to freedom of speech. It is not anti-Semitism to say Israel's government is violating international law, because it has nothing to do with their being Jewish. It has nothing to do with their religion, has nothing to do with their clothing or their diet or their culture. It is their behavior under international law. And these actions by Israel supporters show just how much they hate the Bill of Rights and that First Amendment, and they will do anything to be able to silence critics so that Israel's government can go on being Israel's government and not have to deal with all the criticism. Okay, apparently Israel also has their knickers in a twist over the fact that the International Atomic Energy Agency has recognized Palestine as a state and allowed it to join the body as an observing member. Now, IAEA Director General Yukiya Amano and Palestinian Ambassador to Vienna Salah Abdul Shafi signed the agreement Tuesday that lets IAEA inspectors carry out safety checks on radioactive materials and fissile nuclear materials, such as uranium, that are stored in Palestine. Now, Palestine has no nuclear reactors, but there are medical equipment components of nuclear materials in physics departments in some hospitals and universities. And, of course, over in Israel, Foreign Ministry spokesman Emmanuel Nashon said the move by the IAEA amounted to a violation of international conventions. Note that he didn't say international law, just international conventions. Now, a convention isn't a law. It's just everybody gets together and says, okay, we kind of agree on this. And so what he's trying to say is, well, most of the nations on earth don't see Palestine as a state, therefore the IAEA is in the wrong here because they're in the minority. This reminds me of one of my favorite stage plays from my college theater days, Enemy of the People. And it's amazing how prescient it was, because the storyline is about somebody who discovers the local city water supply is actually poisoning the town. And he basically tries to call attention to it, and he gets slammed down for it. And of course, the argument throughout the whole play is, well, the majority of people feel that this is okay. The majority is always right. And there's this wonderful speech at the end of the play where he says, no, the majority is not always right. In fact, the majority is always wrong. Because before the majority can be right, one man must be right. And while that one man stands alone being right, the majority is wrong. So something to keep in mind when you're being told about convention or consensus, or how everybody has come along to agree, you know, after being wined and dined and given free trips to conventions and stuff, that they're all in agreement that the polar bears are going extinct or some other such nonsense here. Throughout history, when one culture conquers another, inevitably the older culture gets erased. Sometimes it's almost immediate. Sometimes it's a very long, protracted process, and it does make life difficult for the archaeologists. And there is this story talking about Jerusalem's old city. It's coming out of Middle East Eye, basically showing how Jerusalem's old city is slowly being remade by Israel. So Palestine's past is being erased. And they're saying how Israel has controlled East Jerusalem and the walled old city since the 1967 war, in which it also occupied the West Bank. It has effectively treated them as annexed territories ever since. And to consolidate its grip on the old city, Israel has demolished homes and expelled Palestinian residents, empowered the Jewish settlers, and imposed sweeping restrictions that make it virtually impossible for most Palestinians to pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the holiest sites in Islam. Now, to show you how serious that is, let's say hypothetically that you live in Rome and you're Catholic, and you like to pray at the Vatican, which is a very impressive place even for a non-believer like me. And somehow Israel infiltrates Italy, and they start to surround the Vatican, and they start to say, no, you can't go in and pray at the Vatican any longer. You can pray maybe once every 2 months, and only if you're above the age of 50 or below the age of 14, and so forth and so on. How would you feel about that? I don't think you'd feel very happy. And in another stunning demonstration of just how much under the thumb of Israel our own government is, Democratic presidential hopeful Kamala Harris, in an interview with the New York Times, said she believes Israel meets international human rights standards overall, kind of, sort of, maybe. And of course, this comes less than a week after Israel wounded 92 unarmed Palestinian civilians during the weekly Great March of Return protest at the Gaza border, including 28 children and 4 medics. And apparently this is Kamala Harris's idea of meeting human rights standards. But again, it's overall. You know, it's overall. So Harris went on to say, I think that Israel as a country is dedicated to being a democracy and is one of our closest friends in that region, and we should understand the shared values and priorities that we have a democracy and conduct foreign policy in a way that is consistent with understanding the alignment between the American people and the people of Israel. Boy. I have a comment there, but the FCC would shut us down. All righty. Now, do you know it has been 9 years since Israel's attack on the Mavi Marmara, and justice has still not been served? On the 31st of May of 2010, Israel intercepted this human rights group flotilla in international waters, trying to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. And after boarding the Mavi Marmara during a dawn raid, while they were again sailing in international waters, Israeli soldiers killed 9 aid workers, injured several others. One of those injured died of their wounds a few years later. There was this one video where they had one of the aid workers lying on their back on the deck, and the soldier basically pumped more than a few bullets into their head. So apparently the victims of the attack and their families took their case to the International Criminal Court, and on the 14th of May 2013, an application was made to the ICC on behalf of the Comoros, where the Mavi Marmara was registered against several Israeli politicians and military officials. This included the late Shimon Peres, who was president of Israel at the time, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In her final decision on the 6th of November 2014, the ICC prosecutor stated war crimes had been committed by Israel, describing the attack as the willful killing and causing serious injury to body and health and outrages upon personal dignity. Now, all of the passengers taking part in the flotilla had the status of protected civilians under international law, and the Israeli soldiers carried out the attack despite knowing the passengers were civilians. Now, Israel, of course, was claiming self-defense. And the prosecutor said, no, that doesn't stand up, because the autopsies of those killed indicated they received multiple shots in the head, legs, and neck, and at least 5 of the passengers who were killed were shot at close range. So the ICC said Israel committed war crimes. Has anybody gone to jail? Is anybody up there in The Hague? No, of course not. because Israel is above international law. We serve a higher purpose. We're waiting for the Messiah to come back. Wouldn't it be funny if the Messiah came back and he looks around and says, "What a mess you've made of this. I left this place a paradise on earth, and look what you've done. You can all go to the dark places." Okay, now, Trump envoy Jason Greenblatt apparently is discussing with Erdogan ways to counter the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. He may, in doing so, have violated a provision of the Arms Export Control Act. And according to this provision, if there is a consistent pattern of acts of intimidation or harassment directed against individuals in the United States, then no letters of offer may be issued, no credits or guarantees may be extended, no export licenses may be issued to that country, meaning Israel. But then, of course, Israel is already in violation of the Symington Amendment and the Glenn Act, and nothing was done about that. Alrighty, we're going to take another break here for commercials. Got another caller on the line, and we will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go back to the phones now to Jim in Illinois. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Regarding the drone that was shot down, why didn't America use a satellite or even a U-2 plane?
Well, the U-2s are pretty much phased out at this point. I know there's still a few flying around. I know NASA's using some for high-altitude research. But you're absolutely right. With the U.S. spy satellites, it's kind of hard to understand why they would bother sending a global hawk along the edge of Iran, other than as a provocation. Now, supposedly, they sent this thing with the transponders turned off, which means Iran would have had to detect it on skin paint. And that, of course, would have been seen as a provocation by Iran.
Right. Well, do you remember back in 2015 or 16 when America sent a drone over Iran and they were able to take the controls over of the drone?
Yes.
And so it tells me Iran has a lot of great technology. And wasn't this drone, was it 50,000 feet high?
I don't know the altitude that this drone was at, but obviously was low enough to get hit by the missile. I know the maximum ceiling on the Global Hawk is 60,000 feet, which is like twice the height, or 1.5 times the height at most passenger jets fly at. So it really does get up there, and apparently it's got a fuel capacity to basically loiter for about 30 hours.
Okay. And the final question, do you think Iran has nuclear weapons where they could have got them from Russia, Pakistan, or even North Korea?
No, I don't think Iran has nuclear weapons. Iran has basically never shown an interest in having nuclear weapons, although right now, if I were the Iranian government, I would be saying, I'd like at least one to try and cool the ardor of those who want to come into my country and take all the good stuff we have.
Well, if they did have them, that would only be for a defensive weapon, not offensive.
Yeah, deterrence. That's the reason to have a nuclear weapon, is deterrence. Although I fear that the United States, which is the only nation on Earth to offensively use nuclear weapons, may choose to do so against that centrifuge factory underneath that mountain.
Right. And finally, Peter brought up a very good point regarding not having aircraft carriers in the Gulf, mainly because Iran, they have several submarines.
They have submarines, and they also have ship-killing missiles that are up on those hills overlooking the Strait of Hormuz. It's very, very rough territory, and I'm sure they're dug into caves, and they've got a beautiful view of that channel, and they can't be hit from above. And the fact of the matter is that aircraft carriers are an obsolete technology left over from World War II, and the Navy clings to them the way that the Navy clung to the battleship during World War II, only to learn a very hard lesson that they were not effective anymore.
And how long will it take to sink one of those?
Depends on where it's struck and how large a warhead the incoming missile has. But I know that some of these are designed specifically to go after carriers, and so there'll be a big warhead on it.
Right. Well, Michael, that's it. You take care.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Mind you, I think Iran would have to be pushed hard to go after a carrier, because they understand that that would really open the gate to a U.S. retaliation here. Because, you know, the U.S. would be humiliated by the loss of a carrier, and the United States government does not respond well to humiliation. Okay. Over in London, 2 notorious anti-Palestinian activists have pled guilty to charges of harassment and threatening behavior. Jonathan Hoffman, a former leader in the Zionist Federation, and Damon Lenzner changed their earlier not guilty pleas in exchange for government prosecutors dropping related assault charges. Now, this all goes back to October of last year, when the pair attacked Palestine Solidarity protesters calling for the boycott of a Puma store in Carnaby Street, central London. So in the end, for pleading guilty, what did they get? Well, Hoffman got a fine of $350, and Lenzner got a fine of about $300. So slap on the wrist. Definitely slap on the wrist. Okay. Little bit of problem down there in Venezuela. We mentioned this earlier in the week, but apparently more and more evidence is surfacing of a massive embezzlement scandal involving the people surrounding his anointed presidency, Juan Guaido. And this was supposed to be his watershed moment of declaring himself the legitimate government, and it's turned into a public relations disaster. It's so bad that even the New York Times is describing Guaido as deflated. And even the Organization of American States is saying it's time for an investigation. So it looks like the situation in Venezuela has definitely fallen apart. So together with Afghanistan, that's 2 failures. We'll be right back with a phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. So we have this epic public relations failure down in Venezuela where Juan Guaido's circle, if you will, have been caught embezzling most of the cash for humanitarian aid for the people of Venezuela. Just put it in their pocket, and it's blown wide open, and it's absolutely devastating to Guaido's legitimacy. Well, we can't let that sit. You know, we have to fight back. And so the Jerusalem Post came out with an article basically suggesting, without any evidence whatsoever, that Venezuela's gold is actually stolen Nazi gold, including gold ripped from the teeth of those poor Holocaust victims, and then it was melted down, and that's the gold that Venezuela's had all this time. I mean, that is really reaching out there. That's a magnitude 9 Bex. And it's a smear job, plain and simple. They've got zero evidence for it whatsoever. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Wayne in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I just I've been listening to your show for a couple of months. I actually picked up listening to you through the Richie Allen show.
Oh, okay.
And switched over, and and I was very intrigued, and a lot of the things, a lot of the stuff that you talk about, I agree with you on most of the points, and just wanted to share my views a little bit. I haven't been able to listen to the show live. I've been having some streaming issues, but as far as immigration goes, I'm a permanent resident. I came here back in the early 90s, and, my parents paid for everything. It was thousands and thousands of dollars for us to get into the country. And, it's really depressing knowing that there's illegal immigrants that are coming in and just getting everything that, that we've worked so hard to achieve just by ourselves.
I can understand how you feel about it.
It's really disheartening. I mean, especially I had a situation really, really quick. I had a situation when I was 16. I became homeless in New York, and I was homeless from the age of 16 until I was 20. And I received no help. I had no paperwork. I lost everything. The vandalism, people destroying my stuff. And, the government, wouldn't help me for anything. They just turned me away. I was in homeless shelters. They would kick me out after a day of staying there because I couldn't get approved by DSS. And then I hear people, just coming across the border and getting everything for free, getting housing, school benefits, all kinds of things. And it just boils me down. And now I moved to South Florida and I see it even more. It's really sad.
Yeah, these illegal immigrants are getting a better deal from the U.S. government than the legal citizens or legal residents such as yourself. And I think it's time for the American people to ask why that is. I mean, out in California, they're talking about free medical care for the illegal immigrants, whereas for legal American citizens, if we get sick, we get driven into bankruptcy.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened to me a couple of years ago. I had to file for bankruptcy because we had well over $200,000 in medical debt that we couldn't get out from. And, we had insurance that, we had $10,000 deductible and everything else that was on top of it. It was a car accident, so I couldn't really do too much. And, it's getting really, really hard. It's getting extremely hard for people that live here, that pay taxes, that go to work every single day to make sure that their families are fed and they've got clothes on their back and a roof over their head. And it's just, you see people getting it for free, and it's just, it grinds my gears, Mike.
Yes. I understand exactly how you feel. I understand exactly how you feel. And part of that may be because my father was a naturalized citizen. He was born in Shanghai, China, and he came to the United States to study at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he came in the legal way. He went through the process, he did all the paperwork, he did everything right, and he became a naturalized American citizen. And so, again, It cost him a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort, but he played it right. And again, it's almost an insult to his memory to see these illegal immigrants pour across the border and just get handed all kinds of stuff. I mean, we have got massive hunger and homelessness of American people all across this country. We shouldn't be making the homeless problem worse with a flood of illegal immigrants. We shouldn't be making the job problem worse with a flood of illegal immigrants. But as you say, again, for those who came into this country the legal way, it's a slap in the face for this open border policy to continue.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. I mean, that's how I feel on that issue. And I actually found out because of the time that I was homeless from 16 until I was 20, that there's this thing called selective service, and you're supposed to get that and sign up for it when you turn 18. I had no idea about it. I'm not even eligible to become an American citizen anymore because of the fact that I didn't sign up for a selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Yes.
I had no idea about it. I just found out about it 3 weeks ago. Actually, I think it was on your program that I learned about it from one of your callers. It said something about the selective service. And, I looked up and I was like, I don't exist in their system. So, and, I spoke to someone at Department of Homeland Security so that I can try to become a naturalized citizen because, I have 3 children and a wife in the United States, that I've built a life here.
Yes.
And I was like, I've been part of this country for the better part of 30 years, so I might as well become an American citizen. And I got told, nope, you can't become one because you didn't sign up for selective service. And then you get people that I know, some neighbor down the street who became an American citizen, and he was a refugee from South America, and he just got it because he was that. So that's one big topic for me that, and it is a slap in the face because I work so hard and I pay so much in taxes, and I don't get, any recognition for it. You could come across the border illegally and you get everything handed to you on a plate, and we've got to pay for it.
Yeah. Now, can I ask where you came from originally?
I came from the UK. I moved to the United States when I was 5.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so
again,
I came here with my parents. Yeah.
I understand your anger and your frustration.
Yeah. I'm really glad that there's shows out there like yours that tells it how it is, Mike.
Well, thank you very much for the accolade as it was, and again, congratulations on your being in the United States. Congratulations on your family. That's something, I would have wanted to have. I mean, I got a beautiful wife here, but never had kids. That's a disappointment to me. But Claire and I are the world's greatest auntie and uncle.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
That's how you got to see it, man.
That's something else we're going to be doing in Indiana, because we got lots of little ones running around the family. Okay, Wayne, anything else?
All right. That's it. If I have anything else, I'll call in at a different time.
All right. Thanks an awful lot, Wayne. We're going to let you go here. The phone lines are open. Okay. Little bit of an embarrassment for Germany's Air Force. Apparently, they had a transport plane, the A400M100 Airbus, and they had an emergency landing at the Russian city of Kemerovo. So basically, we have, while NATO is making stink face at Russia, we have to use one of your runways to get one of our aircraft down. A little bit of a whoopsie there. More talk about the F-35s and how unstable they are. Now, these are the variants made for the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. This does not affect the Air Force version. And I think the reason has to do, remember the mistake that Boeing made on the 737 MAX, where they just put the larger engines out there and they just shoved them forward and figured it's all going to fly the same. And if you look at the differences between the Navy and Marine versions of the F-35, I think it was trying to move around so much heavy hardware in the same planiform that has created this situation of instability, because apparently the Navy and Marine Force versions of the F-35, when they're engaged in the kind of high angle of attack maneuvers that one would expect in a dogfight or to evade a missile, they become seriously unstable. There are unpredictable changes in pitch and rolling and yaw, and all are considered Category 1 deficiencies. Now, we already know that the F-35 is a terrible dogfighter because it's already been tested against 1970s vintage equipment, and it lost. But we now have this instability that is showing up there. So the short version is they can just fall out of the sky unexpectedly during actual combat here. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Jim in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. There's an article I read this weekend. It's from the website State of the Nation.
Yep.
It says a very special message to the patriot movement. Donald Trump is not who we thought he was. Trump is a total fraud and by far the biggest con man in U.S. presidential history.
I saw that article and I linked to it.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, it was very sobering to read, and anyone still having hope in Trump, it's nice to have hope, but you have to recognize all possibilities and try to use critical thinking. I think Trump was, I hate to say, but selected by Israel. And I think Netanyahu and the Israeli government and the Zionist Jews, if you will, are in complete control of Trump. And I'm afraid that article may have a lot of truth to it. What do you think?
Well, obviously, I agreed with much that the article said, or I wouldn't have posted it to whatreallyhappened.com. But as I've said many times over the last few months, Trump has turned out to be a terrible disappointment. Now, I don't know that Israel necessarily had a particular preference for Trump over Hillary. Both of them would have been complete sellouts to Israel. There's no question about that. And again, we're still hearing rumblings that Hillary may step on in to the Democratic primaries if there's no clear winner. And, you know, Biden's been leading in the polls up until today. Apparently, Elizabeth Warren is now in the #1 spot.
I think Trump would beat either one of them. I think Trump, you can't have a president who's so overtly evil as Hillary. You need a likable person. Trump's funny, he's charismatic.
Yes.
The uninformed public is very likable. In fact, Bush Jr. was, personality-wise, I thought was likable.
Yeah, he was. That's where Jeb Bush failed in 2016. He just stood up there on the stage like, you know, a deer in the headlights, and he couldn't connect with his audience. And yeah, Trump's likability was a major factor in 2016, or if you prefer the converse, Hillary's unlikability. People just don't like her. And, you know, that likability is why Trump filled up that stadium in Orlando. And the Democrats are out there saying, why can't we pack stadiums like that? Because that is signaling that, you know, 2020 may be a GOP sweep again. Because the Democrats just can't get people out there. Even Joe Biden is likely to get maybe 100 or 200 people to attend his events. And he's supposed to, up until this week, polling in the #1 position.
Yes. But remember, with a likable personality, can do the most covertly evil things, especially with the neocons surrounding Trump. So even though you have a likable puppet, you have Bolton, Pence, Kushner, etc., up to the most evil things imaginable. Did you see the interview Trump had with George Stephanopoulos?
No, I did not.
Apparently, he said that he knows who did 9/11, and it wasn't.
I saw a transcript of that, and the exact wording Trump used is, "I think I know who did 9/11, and you may know them as well." And of course, we know this was a joint operation. We know about the dancing Israeli, the Mossad agents. We know about how the Secret Service down there in that school in Florida obviously knew that obviously knew that Bush was not a target that day, so they had to be in on it. So it was a massive operation, and it was supposed to be the catalyzing event, the new Pearl Harbor, that would launch a century of unending warfare.
Yes, but my worry is that, well, the wording I had wrong. Trump said, "I think I might know," but here's the point. Will he turn around the tension with Iran and come around and say, Iran did it?
He might. He very well might. It almost seems like it's inevitable that any nation the United States wants to invade, they'll say, "Oh, well, they were part of 9/11. I mean, first it was Afghanistan. We went in and wrecked the place. Oh, we're sorry, it wasn't Afghanistan. It was Iraq. We go into Iraq and we wreck the place." They tried to say that Syria had something to do with 9/11, and on and on. And so I think it's almost inevitable at some point they'll come on out and say, they've already sued Iran for 9/11. They've got a bunch of their seized funds locked up in court, and the families have sued Iran, and the judge is saying, yes, I agree, it had to be Iran. We don't need no evidence. We don't need no stinking evidence here. Yes, we believe Iran did it, therefore we're going to start taking their money. So, yeah, it's already happened.
Yes. Well, I think if things heat up in the Persian Gulf, that's what I'm afraid. Just more propaganda. Oh, a stunning new evidence says Iran was involved in that. I think. Thanks for taking my call, Mike.
You got it.
Great show.
Thank you. We got to take a break for commercials. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go back to the phones to Scott in California. Aloha, Scott. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. That previous caller sparked the memory of something you said in the lead up to the 2016 elections. That's going back 3 years.
Yes.
And you said that either the Trump thing, it's the biggest psyop in history, or Trump is the real deal. And that sentence you said stuck with me all this time. I think about that every month or so.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. But you think if he was truly a threat to globalist powers, they would. Hell, they could have nuked a city, blamed it on the way the intelligence and the news networks work, they could have blamed it on a casino workers union in Monaco or something,
Yes.
and get away with it. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just watching, staying loose. Hey, I thought I heard you say a couple of weeks ago you're considering moving back to the mainland?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to remind you, I called you up a couple of years ago when this came up. Don't forget taking your stuff down to the Matson terminal, and the longshoreman can stuff a container, and you'll just be charged for the cubic feet that you use.
Well, yeah, we're looking at that as one of our options. We still obviously have got until the end of August to put this together. In fact, we have a moving estimator coming over this afternoon. The problem with stuffing a container is that I am 66 going on 67. Claire is 70, and she has a bad back. And so it's not like we can take our stuff down to the Matson terminal and shove it in there. Now, obviously, at the other end, we're going to have a lot of our relatives and friends to unload and get us moved into the new place. But getting off this end of the island, we're going to need a little bit of help here. And
okay.
So I appreciate the offer, and it's one of the things that we're going to look at. But yeah, we should talk to Matson definitely.
Okay, Michael. Anyway, I catch you almost every day, no matter where in the world I happen to be.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go, and the phone lines are open again. All right. Now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has kicked off a little bit of a firestorm by saying that the United States is running concentration camps comparable to Nazi Germany. And she's talking, of course, about the holding facilities down there at the border for the illegal immigrants. And it drew an immediate backlash saying it's apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. In fact, even the Auschwitz Museum waded on in and said, you need to actually study your history of what's going on, because you're demeaning the memory of the real Nazi camps by trying to say that the immigration control centers. And apparently CNN went so far as to compare Trump to Hitler. Oh boy, we got to break free from that part. We're literally being held back by all that Holocaust Hitler stuff. We'll be back after station identification.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And before I go back to the phones here, this may be a bad sign. Somebody put up on Twitter a video taken of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi leaving the White House after this meeting with Trump over Iran. And Chuck Schumer is literally celebrating. He's got his hands in the air and he's pumping back and forth, and Pelosi is grinning ear to ear. So it may be that, yes, something really bad is about to happen to Iran. After all, even after Trump says that the shoot down of the drone may have been accidental. All right, let's go to the phones here, starting with Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
First of all, how am I coming in?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to call that this whole war thing is not going to happen.
Hope you're right.
This is a card game, a poker game, and if we start a war with Iran, if we attack and we fail, we've just showed our cards.
Yes.
I mean, if we have to worry about land-based or mobile-based anti-ship missiles, we've just proven that our aircraft carriers are obsolete. And that's what happened to Israel and Lebanon. The tank was turned obsolete in 2006.
Yes.
And they went into the Little Bighorn. When the ragtag group of Hezbollah fighters wiped out their tanks with over-the-shoulder mounted anti-tank weapons.
Yes.
Now, we can't hit these guys fast and furious and make it look good. The whole world will know that we're a paper tiger. And is this really worth showing our hand? Is this really worth absolutely letting the world know that we may not be what we claim to be?
Well, it's already happened.
I think
it's already happened in Syria. It's already happened in Afghanistan. Yeah. And, the wars are not going on very well. If you go back to General Wesley Clark, when he sort of blew the whistle on the war agenda, this was all supposed to be over back in 2008.
Yeah, and this has gone on a long time. If we really felt like we could do something with Iran, it would have been done a long time ago. Now, if I was, I'm against all this aggression, but if I was somebody involved planning what we want to do to protect Israel, I would try to create a presence in southern Lebanon to buffer Hezbollah from the northern tip of Israel. Attacking Iran is I don't know how you can really do it. I mean, you can't invade from the ground. There's no guarantee for air superiority. You know, there are 4,000 S-24s in the east somewhere. 4,000 S-24s, Sukhoi S-24s that Russia has sold into the eastern countries. I mean, once the war starts, I mean, crap can come out of places you don't even know exist. I just don't think they're going to take the risk. That's all talk. I think this is Trump doing. He's a ratings machine. He's working the ratings gig here. Look, I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but I think this whole thing is a complete hoax, and this card game is going to come down to a stalemate. Nobody's going to attack anybody here.
I certainly hope you're right. I certainly hope that you are correct. But again, I don't think Trump is going for the ratings here, because I don't think another war is going to be seen as a positive by the majority of the American people. Now, I don't know what the insider poll numbers are saying, because we're not supposed to know that. And I don't care what external polls the corporate media gins up. Certainly just from talking to people around here. And we have a very high per capita military presence on this island. People think it's just a dumb idea to go into Iran.
Yeah, well, you have any kind of casualties, it's going to be a total disaster for the politicians who supported this. Okay, thanks for taking my call.
All right, you got it. We're going to switch over to Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, you were talking about Cortez and the comment that she made about, referring to Nazi, well, she didn't say Nazi, she said concentration camp.
Yes.
But everybody's, bringing out like, well, she's comparing him to Nazi concentration camps. She might be, who knows, but she did not say it. See, I'm one of those guys that I listen to exactly what's said. I don't try to assume or interpret. I listen to exactly what's said, take it exactly as it is. And this is what irritates people about me. They're, well, that's not what you said. So she didn't say Nazi, but she did say concentration camps. And so everybody looks to that. But what people seem to forget is, well, we still have concentration camps here in the United States that were used back during the war. I didn't hear anybody complaining back then when they were locking up Japanese Americans.
Well, in fact, I believe they've reactivated one of the Japanese internment centers that has survived from there. Concentration camps certainly cover a much wider area than just what Germany did with them. But however it came, apparently, I just found what appears to be a quote on that very topic. Apparently, it's open borders or Nazis, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez explained Tuesday, as she blamed the full mess at the southern border on fascist President Trump. So apparently this didn't come out of her TV appearance. It came out of her Instagram post. So apparently she did in fact say something to sort of narrow it down to the Nazis.
Well, just everybody needs to remember the definition of a concentration camp is a place where large numbers of people, especially political prisoners or members of persecuted minorities, are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate facilities, sometimes to provide forced labor or to await mass execution. Now, as far as I know, these aren't political prisoners. They're not in tiny little areas with inadequate facilities, as far as I'm aware of. Yep. And they're certainly not being forced labor, and I really doubt that they're awaiting mass execution. So these wouldn't be concentration camps, but they are, by definition, if you look them up, detention centers.
Yes.
There's a big difference.
Yep.
Big difference.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks, Mike. Have a great one.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. And we're going to switch over to Paul in Montana. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Rivero. Two little quickies for you. What happened to all those FEMA camps that Jones was talking about a few years ago? And number two, do you think those Iranians and all those people that were about ready to drop bombs on are not going to bring the war here to America. I mean, what's been coming across the border for the last year? No fifth columnist? I mean, planning ahead is where it's at. I'll listen to your comments.
They just arrested this Syrian refugee for planning to blow up a church in Pennsylvania.
Sometimes to provide forced labor or to await mass execution. Now, as far as I know...
Okay, you need to turn that speaker down. Yeah, that's where another war is really insane. Sooner or later, these countries that the United States government is bombing, they're going to realize that that open southern border is the nation's Achilles heel. All right, we're going to switch over now to Robert in Spain. Aloha, Robert. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I was just trying to respond to the previous caller that said that he thinks that it's all a bluff and nothing will happen. I don't think he realizes how lunatic these people are. Look what they did on 9/11, right? So,
Yes.
you know, I think they're going for it. They want their little Moshiach to arrive in some kind of chariot of fire from heaven, and that's what they think. That's what they actually believe. And these people are running our planet, you know, running it to the ground.
Yes.
So basically, that's just my thought. Cheers.
All right, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. All righty, over at Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton is basically out there. They're pulling all this information together, and he's saying that the Obama State Department was at the center of the storm over the anti-Trump dossiers, and he's hitting the plural, meaning there was something else going on besides the Christopher Steele dossier, which we know was a complete made-up, salacious, piece of garbage that was then used to get the FISA warrants to make spying on the Trump campaign by the Obama administration seem quasi-legal. But in hindsight, looking at it, it was all a hoax. Now, they handled it a lot more cleverly than Watergate, but it's still just as big a scandal. Judicial Watch is also out there saying that California has begun the massive voter roll cleanup, and this is part of the Judicial Watch federal lawsuit settlement. They're apparently notifying up to 1.5 million inactive voters that are going to be scrubbed from the voter rolls. What they really need to do in the coming months is get those illegal immigrants off the voter rolls, because they are not supposed to be there, and there are enough of them where they can shift voting districts. That's what happened in the midterms. California, traditionally a Republican stronghold, and in the midterms last year, 4 voting districts slipped into blue. And that was a big part of the Democrats taking control, of the House of Representatives. Now, Jackson Costco is a former aide to the Democratic New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan, Democratic California Senator Barbara Boxer, and Democratic Texas Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, has been sentenced to 4 years in prison for the doxing of Republicans. And apparently this guy, Jackson Costco, stole the contents of Hassan's computer systems in October of 2018 and published all this private information of Republicans, including home addresses and cell phones, to encourage harassment of them during the confirmation of Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So apparently a second Democratic aide has been charged with computer fraud and tampering with evidence for her role as an accomplice to Costco. Okay, we're going back to the phones now here. Todd in California, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello there, Mr. Mike Rivero. Thank you for taking my call, and hope it's still all going well with your state-bound side workout coming up.
Yes.
Well, let me just talk about the open market of military arms. I'll start with domestic. Remember, Trump opened up a policy that people in foreign countries could buy our 1911 Colt 45s right out the door at the embassies. That was a program he started when he came in office. Let's also talk about Belarus selling on the open market their MiGs, their old MiG-21s and stuff that they're just dumping with the parts. Those were found, by the way, in a mountain in Belarus. Those were buried in the mountain in the old Soviet hangars.
Yes.
So those are all over the Eastern Bloc countries. And in those hills are also, it's well known that they're just littered with AK-47s, RPGs, and the rounds and ammunition for those, as well as the Dushka. I think that's the 12.4 millimeter, just heavy duty, like a Browning 50. They have as well. Let's talk about what the U.S. has, not just the 1911 Colt 45 put out there on the open market, but as you see the war with Yemen and Saudi Arabia continue to go on, let's think about where is Saudi Arabia getting all those neat looking, MRAPs and all that stuff. Well, I have a little theory here. Okay. Egypt is allowed to build the M1 Abrams. Okay. That's a fact.
Yes.
So they build that. And they also have the Armalite licensing to build all kinds of M16 A2s and all the other sort of stuff. And remember, just a while back, busted off the coast of Egypt was a North Korean freighter. They call it a junk freighter because it was basically a rolling piece of junk. And they confiscated all those RPG so-called practice rounds that were going to Egypt. Okay, they had to destroy them. Okay, right there. Dig a trench, put them in it, let's blow them all up. Okay, more on the open market. If you think about it, where are all these, let's just call them, not the SDF, the Kurds. I want to go to the Hayat al-Sharam or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Hayat al-Sharam. Okay, them and the other group that got together. Well, they certainly have a lot of new-looking weapons, okay, and they just seem to keep flooding. And then it's interesting, back and forth, they show you on Live Leak, RNU, and even on, RNT, YT, the white YouTube channels, the amount of on both sides, capturing the amount of weapons that, when they gain ground or lose ground, the amount of weapons they capture from each other, and it's astounding. It's just, that war in Syria is not going to end because of the supply. And also the war in Afghanistan, Joe, it's not going to end. Okay, the Mujahideen are ganged up with the Taliban because the Taliban is basically beating up the Mujahideen, and now you have the ISIS that are even worse than the Taliban there in Afghanistan. And I think my personal opinion is that China is a big supplier of the Dushkas, the RPGs, AK-47s of the various types, because they do have the .39 and the .54 rounds. You also have the Dragunov sniper rifles that you see often quite a bit, and sometimes they look quite brand new. So, gee, how did that get there?
Well, we know that the United States has been smuggling arms and supplies into Syria to put in the hands of the so-called moderate opposition and even into the hands of ISIS. And there is no question that the global arms trade right now is having a golden age. There's also no question to the fact that as these conflicts go on, a lot of this stuff just gets lost and left behind. We have seen photos from inside Syria where they'll take over one of these outposts of the opposition, and it's loaded up with all these Israeli and American weapons. So it's just pouring all of this stuff into the conflict zones, and that's what turns them into conflict zones.
Well, and also if you look as well, I see a flood of 60s and 70s Russian era BMPs and tanks, and I'm going, okay. To me, it's very interesting that we, like in World War II, they could bomb the train lines, but yet they're not showing us the pipelines like they did before of the supply routes, like how everybody was complaining and moaning about when ISIS was doing gasoline business with Erdogan in Turkey.
Yes.
So, that dude is seriously complicit in doing business with beheaders, the ISIS group, you know, which is basically also, if people watched about the funding of these weapons, isn't it interesting? The ISIS people would go across the border to Israel, get all patched up, and then, of course, on their way back, they got brand new weapons and gear. Now, gee, where did that all come from?
U.S. taxpayer.
They get patched up, they get sent back in. And I've been watching this war since the beginning. And I have done martial arts for 30 plus years, and several people that I do martial arts with are from the Middle East. And when we get on the floor, there is no country. Okay, we are there to practice, and we're there to, you know, train and learn from one another. And I get a lot of good insights from when I train with them. And not things are so, you know, I mean, we have entire Christian villages that do not exist anymore. Gone.
Yep.
They've been there since the foundation of when the word of the way went out. And that was the original understanding, or my understanding of Christianity was, it was called the way. Everybody knew it as the way. If you read the book of Acts, you'll find that. Sir Luke was a really good writer. But, you know, let's go back to the massive amount of weapons. Also, you know, we forget that Norway, Sweden have been supplying stuff down there to that war.
Yes.
Okay, we have a war along the border with the Ukraine.
Okay, Todd,
you know,
I hate to do this. I hate to do this. We got to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the overview of all the armaments. It's obvious that you're an expert in the weapons that are currently out there in the field. But we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable.
Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And getting on back, we're going to do the economic news here. I'm way behind on my talking points here. I'm probably going to have to take most of this into tomorrow's show. Apparently, the U.S. trucking industry is in serious trouble. It's in a major downturn. Now, the trucking industry is an $800 billion a year business. It's in the worst downturn since the last financial crisis back in 2008, 2009. They're literally calling it a bloodbath because there just isn't anything to be trucked around. It's another indicator of a major slowdown here. So more retailers are in trouble. And again, they're trying to blame e-commerce. Or they're trying to say that, well, these retailers didn't take e-commerce seriously, and they'd put up a website and they'd say that was enough to deal with it, and it wasn't. So apparently, Walmart, Macy's, Best Buy, Home Depot, and Nordstrom all spent a lot of money trying to build out their e-commerce sites, and other major retailers were less enthusiastic, or they just didn't have the money to do it. And many of them have gone bankrupt, and this includes Toys R Us, Sears and Kmart, Bon-Ton Stores, Borders Books, Claire's Stores, Sports Authority, Limited Stores, and Payless Shoe Source. Now, the reality is that there are 38 store chains that are shutting down this year. And we're talking major iconic brands like Nordstrom, Macy's, Sears. It's a huge, huge list. And they can try and blame e-commerce, but that's not what's going on. The American people are running out of money because all the money is being sucked out of the working and middle classes to either go to the billionaires or to go to Israel, or the hugest cost of all, the war machine. We're in a wartime economy, and we are all being driven down into poverty to try and pay for it all. And if you know anybody who was alive back during World War II, who was not serving in the military, you might want to ask them, what was it like as the money just got tighter and tighter and tighter, and there was food rationing? We're headed that way. Okay, article out of Zero Hedge, Chairman Powell, you're fired. And it's basically saying that Trump has discussed firing Jerome Powell out of a sense of frustration that the Fed chair is not dovish enough. And Trump has regularly expressed his displeasure at Powell's lack of willingness to do whatever it takes the economy booming beyond its potential. Now, the reason for that is clearly political. Right now, Trump is campaigning for 2020 on a strong economic recovery, or at least the illusion of one. Because right now, from where I sit, there is a huge gap between the official government economic indicators and that stock market and the reality out here on the streets, where we're seeing iconic retailers close and homelessness and hunger go on up. Now, China has decided to raise tariffs on the U.S. again. At the same time, they're cutting duties on goods from other countries. So China is not backing down on the trade war. And basically their new attitude is, we can get along without you. We're just going to go do business with other countries. All righty. Apparently, back on May 24th, the government in China seized Baoshan Bank, and apparently the bank had failed, as most Chinese banks are insolvent if left to their own devices due to the real and higher levels of non-performing loans. See, their economy was very much tied into the U.S. economy. China's a manufacturing powerhouse. They're an exporter of products. The United States used to be one of their biggest customers. But when our economy started to fall apart, people stopped going to those big box stores and buying those Chinese imports. This is the downside of economic globalism. When it goes bad one place, it goes bad everywhere. And that's exactly what's going on now. That's why the mortgage-backed security meltdown of 2008 nearly destroyed the banks in Europe. All right, we got to take another break here for commercials, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at libertystickers.com. Again, that's libertystickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I'm watching this story come across the Fox feed about these 11 Americans who have died on vacation in the Dominican Republic. And the Dominican Republic government is saying the autopsies are not showing anything. There have been stories of these people basically falling down dead after sampling the minibar. The FBI is now involved, and they're down there testing the little bottles in the minibar to see if they can find out what's going on here. Now, there are two possibilities here. One is that this is an extortion attempt by somebody against the government of the Dominican Republic, saying, I have the power to destroy your tourism industry, and tourism is already down at the Dominican Republic. They've taken a major hit from this. So if you will send me, 2 million of whatever it is they use for currency in the Dominican Republic, I'll quit and go away and retire. The other one is that I'm looking at the State Department at their document on U.S. relations with the Dominican Republic, saying that relations are solid but complex. And apparently it's talking about U.S. assistance to build accountable and transparent institutions, better serve the needs of the Dominican people, and strengthen democratic governance. So if I read between the lines on this, the government of the Dominican Republic, while cooperating with the United States on things like drug interdiction, is not wholly on board with the way that the United States thinks the Dominican Republic ought to be run. And I'm wondering if this is the first step on destabilizing the economy of the Dominican Republic, leading to a regime change, just like they did in Venezuela, where they destroyed the economy and then led into regime change. Because the fact that the FBI is down there already makes me suspicious. Getting on back to the economic news here, apparently Iran and Russia have signed a dozen cooperation agreements covering energy, railway, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and tourism, with senior officials stressing the political will of the two countries to reinforce ties in the face of U.S. sanctions. So basically, Iran and Russia are getting closer together. They're going to do business with each other. They're not going to go through the dollar. They're not going to go through SWIFT, which means the U.S. sanctions will be unenforceable. That raises the possibility that if the U.S. goes into Iran, Russia, which has previously already committed to the security of Iran, will basically come on in, as they did in Syria, with weapons and support, and turn Iran into a war of attrition, which the United States is not going to be able to win. We don't have the money, we don't have the manpower, we don't have the machinery. We lost our war of attrition in Afghanistan. We're stalemated in our war of attrition in Syria. I mean, to me, it looks like the message is clear. The U.S. is running out of military supplies. Despite all the money that's being poured into the Pentagon, we're just not getting the bang for the buck. Vladimir Putin came on out with the numbers, basically saying that anti-Russian sanctions have cost the economies of Europe $240 billion, while Russia lost only $50 billion. And now you know why the Europeans are so unhappy. Story coming on out from Investment Watch blog. Quantitative easing has prevented a debt crisis, but we've pretty much reached the physical limits of quantitative easing. And quantitative easing and other so-called unconventional monetary policies, it's been one of the most important changes to the world in the last decade. And it's basically it's a tool central banks have used to lower long-term interest rates. And these long-term lower interest rates were desperately needed to allow the debts incurred after the 2008 financial crisis to be serviced. Now, of course, you, the consumer, you don't get those lower interest rates. You know, you service that debt. Gold prices are surging. They've surged nearly 3% to a 5-year high at $1,385 per ounce. And the Fed has signaled possible interest rate cuts this year, which is sending so-called risk assets higher. Story coming on out of END.co. And it says half of Americans are effectively poor now in what is supposed to be the richest nation on earth. And right now, 43% of American households can't afford a budget that includes housing, food, child care, health care, transportation, and a cell phone. Basically saying nearly half of Americans can't afford the basics of life anymore. So what's going on? Well, because most of the wealth of this nation is sucked up by the billionaires and the war machine. That's where it's all going. And because we're seeing Americans put out of work and wages and salaries going down, there are no tax revenues to try and deal with that shortage. And we may well see a deficit for the year 2019 exceed $1 trillion. That is not a balanced budget. That's not a healthy economy. That is runaway, out of control debt. And we're just getting so close to the cliff. And we're going to reach a point of Weimar-style inflation where they're just going to run those printing presses and type those numbers into the computers with lots and lots of zeros, trying to hold it all together. But once you reach that hyperinflationary state, you're doomed. They weren't able to save the situation in the Weimar Republic. They weren't able to save the situation in Zimbabwe. I remember a while ago, I had this currency collection that was framed on the wall. And it included a whole bunch of currencies from countries. The currencies didn't exist anymore. They had been inflated to worthlessness, and they had to reform. And I donated that currency collection to a museum somewhere. I don't even remember where it went. But yeah. And you know, people are getting angry about this, and they're beginning to understand exactly why the economy is as bad as it is. They're not buying this idea that it's somehow all their fault, that it's China's fault or Russia's fault. We understand the trap that is central banking, private central banking. And so it's no surprise to see this article out of Zero Hedge saying that in the next wave of populism, there may be a move by the people of various countries to say no more private central banks. We want to go back to a bank that works for the nation and its people, just like was described in the Constitution here in the United States of America, where government has the authority to coin the money and regulate its value, then spend it into circulation to buy what the government needs. The coinage or the paper claim checks flows through commerce without accruing interest and is taxed back at the same amount at the end to balance the books and close the cycle. With private central banks, they're creating money literally out of thin air. And then they loan it to you at interest, and it flows through commerce, and everywhere it stops, it's picking up a little more interest until finally it comes back and has to be taxed back at higher rates to try and pay that balance. But here is the overview. Because of the way private central banks are set up, they create more debt than money with which to pay the debt, and it never reverses. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much you sacrifice, you can never pay off that debt. And that is the tool of enslavement. And more people are beginning to understand that's what private central banks do. And they've been doing it for 300 years. It's made the owners of these private central banks just blazingly rich, so rich they have to hide it from you. But remember back when Democrats were calling the border crisis a manufactured crisis? There is no border crisis. Well, apparently now they're preparing a $4.5 billion package for at least partial construction of some border walls down there. I think they ought to put it out to open bid. I think they ought to put out one like Hungary did. Just 2 strands of chain link, concertina wire top, electric shocks. They got a lot of miles of wall for very little money. And again, I still want to find out what happened, because back in the 1990s, there was a bill passed to fund 700 miles of wall with Mexico, almost half the amount needed, and only 31 miles got built. Who gave the order to call it off? Where did the rest of the money go? Okay. As you know, out in California, the state legislature and Governor Gavin Newsom passed a bill for free medical care for illegals. And a lot of people are saying, you guys are lunatics. And there's a new Rasmussen Reports poll that said, should illegal immigrants receive free health care? And the answer is a resounding and overwhelming no, no way, no how, nada. Zip, zero. And we had that caller who called in earlier to the show. You know, legal resident in this country came in the right way and just infuriated that illegals are walking across the border and they're getting all this free stuff. You want to talk about ancient Rome and bread and circuses? This is it. And the Democrats are handing out all this free stuff to make sure that all these illegal immigrants vote Democratic next year, even though they're not supposed to vote at all. The Democrats are using the illegal immigrants to steal this country from conservatives. That's what's going on here. Alrighty. Anyway, lawmakers are also warning that a new law giving driver's licenses to illegals could lead to massive voter fraud. Well, yeah, that's the whole point. The Democrats are counting on illegal immigrants to put them over the top next year. It's estimated some 3 million illegal immigrants voted in the elections in 2016. Who knows how many it's going to be next year. But with 26 million illegal immigrants in this country, all with their hands out for free stuff from the Democrats, yeah, we could see the United States become a one-party country like the old Soviet Union. And like the old Soviet Union, that one party would be socialistic. And I think a lot of people would be very upset to see the United States basically turning into a new variation on the theme of the Soviet Union. Over in Germany, several politicians who are still favoring the open borders policy are now receiving death threats. And the police are treating it to apparently the politically motivated murder of one of Angela Merkel's party allies. And apparently these emails were sent to all these politicians saying that the murder of Christian Democratic Union politician Walter Lübcke was the first in a line of upcoming purges and called for terror attacks on left-leaning politicians in Germany. So the mayors of the city of Cologne and the western town of Altena, who have both been victims of knife attacks because of their pro-open border stances, were singled out in the letters. Now, I've been to Germany, and at least back when I was in Germany, the people were pretty low-key. It took a lot to drag them to this state of being willing to use violence against their own politicians. So I think people have just been driven to the breaking point here. Alrighty. Now, apparently, there's been a, on July 22nd, there's going to be a new election in Great Britain for the leader of the Conservative Party. And there are pre-elections right now. And so far, the final contenders come down to Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt. Now, Boris Johnson got 162 votes. Jeremy Hunt is in second place with 77 votes. Michael Gove basically missed it. Only got 75 votes, so he's basically out of it. So at this point, barring the unexpected, Boris Johnson will be the leader of the Tories. And that means if the Tories sweep the next parliamentary votes, he's going to be the new British Prime Minister. Now remember, Theresa May made that odd comment that she's not going to step down until she believes there is a replacement that has the trust of the Parliament. So that's her escape hatch. And I think when they finally get her out of number 10, it's going to take a lot of sandpaper to get those claw marks out of the door frame. British Liberal Dems are calling on party leaders to reinstate a group that was suspended for criticism of Israel. This is more of that pushback against this idea that criticism of the government of Israel somehow represents Jew hate and anti-Semitism. And they're coming on back and saying that the statistical evidence shows that opposition to Israel is actually more pronounced on the right of British politics. It's not a particular left-wing phenomenon. And other minority groups face far greater challenges. At which point Israel stands up and says, no, they don't. No, they don't. We're the perpetual victim. We're always the real victim. Don't you pay attention to those other people. You feel sorry for us. You give us money. You give us political favoritism. You give us security and so forth. Holocaust, Holocaust, Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AIROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AIROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AIROutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today here. And apparently over in Oregon, there's been a bit of a stink where the governor has literally sent the police to find missing Republican legislators and drag them back to the Capitol. And apparently these Republican senators are in hiding, some of them out of state, to try and prevent the Senate from having the quorum it needs to operate. And the issue is another Democrat-backed carbon cap and spend bill that is up for the Senate vote today. So that is really getting out there. And of course, it's all because of global warming. Don't you know we have to have, cap and trade, more money, more money. Well, they don't need to worry about that here because with this situation with the drone and Iran, oil is already going up. Oil is already going on up here, and I'm trying to look at the actual number here, but yeah, oil shoots up as Iran says it's ready for war. They're still going on and on about reparations for slavery. And former NFL star Burgess Owens came on out when he was testifying before Congress and said, well, if anybody is responsible for paying the reparations for slavery, it should be the Democratic Party, because they were all gung-ho for slavery down there in the Confederacy. Well, yeah, I can see some merit to his argument there. I mean, us Yanks up there in New England, we didn't have slaves. We weren't slave owners. We were Republicans. We ran a station on the Underground Railroad. Yeah, he's got a good point. If the Democrats think reparations are in order, they should pay for them, because after all, the Democrats were in favor of slavery during the antebellum South. All right, well, Facebook is definitely getting ready for the 2020 elections, and that means it's silencing one political ideology. And if you think about the fact that we only have two of them, it tells you what's going on. So Mark Zuckerberg may be out there saying he wants diverse voices to be heard, but no, he doesn't. Because over at the Western Journal, they operate several Facebook pages, and they have just been taken down. And apparently they actually paid Facebook to advertise their pages, and they pay a lot of money, and Facebook never turns down the money. But apparently they have rigged things so that fewer and fewer people can actually find the stories. Apple News is getting in on the censorship game. They have booted a conservative outlet for advocating views overwhelmingly rejected by the scientific community, in this case, questioning human cause global warming and stating their belief that human life begins at conception and that preborn babies are in fact human beings. And because the scientific community has rejected both of these ideas, well, you know something, the scientific community can often fall down, go boom. They make a lot of mistakes. All right, there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. We got to get some work done around the house here for a little bit. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow with the Lady Claire. Aloha, America.